As a leader in the grief space, I've cared for and supported families and communities for over 20 years. This show dives into the journey and experiences all of us will most certainly encounter in life. Welcome to the Guiding Grief podcast, where we discuss grief and explore opportunities for growth and connection. I'm your host, Nicholas Welzenbach, and this is Guiding Grief on KCAT TV. When did that conversation start as it relates to serving 12
minors
to 18? Yes.
Yeah, it's been in the works for a while. We did have a family program before, but it was very unofficial, and there's a lot of red tape and lawyers and make sure that everyone is doing what they should be doing clinically, ethically to be able to do that. So
yeah, because then the child has to be made aware that this is available to them, but then they have to opt in. So
yes.
It's not, like I was a kid with my ear being pulled in saying we're doing this. They're right. Saying this is something that I believe would be beneficial to me as it relates to the steps of grief.
Yeah, and as we were planning this, we made a very conscious decision that the kids have to know about the cancer diagnosis beforehand in order to walk in.
Now, is that they're signing that away? They're saying I've done this, or they're letting you know that they're aware?
The kids, well, we have a phone conversation with them to ensure that, do you know that your parent has a cancer diagnosis? Have they talked to you about it? Are there secrets in the household? And then from there, the kid will be like, yes, I'm on board, or my mom's standing in the doorway and I can't say no.
Oh my gosh, the weight of your universe. I think about it as it relates to me being a funeral director, but just being in that relationship with the family and how intimate that is.
Yeah.
I'm going to just pause real quick, just let everybody know we are so excited to have Guiding Grief back with our guest, Juliann Halvorsen from Cancer CAREpoint. She is the licensed family therapist.
Marriage and family therapist.
Has been for years. We've had her on the podcast. She's a friend of the pod. We are just super excited to have you back. We've had a little bit of a hiatus, and what better way to kick things off than with a friend that is immersed in other individuals' grief on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So things we want to discuss today is just that our world's allergy to grief, in addition to normalizing it in our conversations on a daily basis, helping support individuals in our community as it relates to this is a conversation that should be had. And the other thing we might want to broach into is medical aided and supported death as it relates to people that are on palliative and hospice care, which is something that all too many families are experiencing, have been since the hospice era really began, which is a wonderful movement to support and help families. Yeah. And then the name that we talked about earlier, and we were having coffee a while back as it relates to Kevorkian and our relationship to him as it relates to the public's view of that individual and how he was a monster when we were children.
Yes.
And what he was actually trying to prevent is something that you don't encounter until you're hopefully an adult with a parent or a loved one that's well seasoned into life.
Yeah.
So
best case scenario.
Yeah. But allergy to grief, there's a child that might be coming to your care that is signing up. They don't have an option for an allergy to grief at that point in time. They're just thrust into a situation.
Yeah. What a great point of a stranger calls you, and first phone call is, so I hear your mom and dad or someone that you love has cancer. It's like, oh, I don't know if I want to talk to you. Yeah. How do you build trust even in that first phone call?
Yeah.
Right, with a minor. So we're so excited to offer this new program called Family Strategizing Sessions, and it's even more last time I was on the podcast, I described the way that we do counseling is very short term and solution focused. So 12 to 15 sessions if everything goes well, and then Family Strategizing Sessions is 4 to 8 sessions. So that even is funneled down to, let's get really serious on what is communication like at home. Who has a little bit more responsibility than maybe they should, given that they're 14 years old? what is being talked about, what's not being talked about. And when I counsel parents, so often the parents are like, oh, my kid doesn't really talk, like they don't think about my cancer diagnosis, or we don't talk about it at home because they don't bring it up.
Which is not true at all.
It's not true at all.
Yeah, if
and
it's
kids
not
are
a secret in the house,
yeah.
they 100% know.
Yeah, and the internet exists these days. If you're not
Yes.
privy to it,
Yeah.
it's this World Wide Web thing.
I'll ask my watch if I don't have a phone. I'm going to find a friend's phone. I'll pick up mom and dad's. I'm going to ask it a question.
It's anywhere.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm trying to put myself in those shoes from having been through that universe. And I don't know that I've ever appropriately diagnosed or sat down and had the conversations that I should post my experience with hospice and loss associated with cancer. But a child, I mean, it's noble to make that step from Cancer CAREpoint, like not necessarily a bold move, but a super important move to say, hey, we're going to pull these individuals in.
Yeah.
And we have an infinite amount of bandwidth.
Don't we, as human beings?
Yeah.
Yeah, and part of the decision to do this was I have no problem coaching parents on whatever age bracket their kids are at, whether at whatever age they are as a minor. But then, like, man, I'm missing a piece here by actually not having the minor in the room and talking about, like, what's your account? Like, what's your experience with this? And I think also parents want to be very protective and not, like, I want to make things as nice and as comfortable as I can for kids and hopefully not tell them at all if I can. But then that can do a disservice to the kids too, right?
Because the rug on the other side.
Right.
If all of a sudden we've gotten to this point, you're like, well, I never knew that you were, right?
Yeah.
Because cancer goes one of two ways, right? It's going to be this fast process, or it might be a long process, or maybe even the third. I battle and survive, but there's always that proverbial monkey on the back that is, will this be revisited?
Right.
And if a child isn't included in that conversation, especially, I mean, I have a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old, so the idea of leaving them out of something just based on the fact that I feel that they're so in tune with everything that transpires between my wife and I in our home and our universe.
Yeah.
That to not think that they would know. I think maybe that's a hope. It's like that protective parental thing. Like maybe if I don't discuss it and if I don't, then they won't pick up on it, but they're going to know.
Yeah. It's an ostrich with its head in the sand, right? And kids are very smart. If anybody knows kids of any age,
yes,
they'll pick up on it. And I think a lot of, like, especially for teens, there can be kind of this resentment of, why didn't you trust me with this information? How come you didn't think I could handle it?
Right. So then it could actually create a void or a distance based on lack of trust.
Even more than there might already been, like, who knows what kind of relationship parents even have with their kids at that point. And then the extra layer of blight.
So this is so layered, though, because if you're going to have this conversation with this family and even bring them to this moment that, hey, this would be beneficial, you could potentially eliminate a void. You could create a stronger family unit while you're battling something, because it's going to change you as it relates to your fatigue or your just mental capacity and all the things that are associated with the individual. And super important for folks to know about Cancer CAREpoint is that it is not it doesn't focus solely on the cancer patient. That's the beauty of it, right? Yeah. It's a triaging of the family unit now in the not too distant future, expanding down to the age of consent for a child, which is 12 years old.
Yeah.
That's huge. But just for you to have that conversation, I mean, that goes into how do individuals that deal in grief treat their own grief? Because there's not a conversation that you have on any given day. Hopefully this one is lighter than most based on it. But you're having a conversation about someone's mortality and the impact that it will forever have on generations of a family and their immediate children, everything.
Yeah, and I'm getting into the part of, as a professional, kind of, and I would be very interested in how you hold your own grief, right, doing the work that you do too. You think about people that are like paramedics or, went to the towers of 9/11 and helping in grief, like we were talking about before, just in emergency services. Like, when you take your time card out and you're done for the day, like, what are you left with?
There is no punch. And especially, if you have a partner, you have someone at home where you go home and you have that conversation, and then they can experience
like, what do I do with this?
Yeah, and you're like, do I have this conversation with you? Like, oh, how was your day? Don't ask a funeral director how their day was.
Yeah.
Or
just offer me the bourbon.
Yeah. Hopefully we're not burying it entirely in it, but it's been known to help sugarcoat a little bit every now and again.
Literally.
But it's one of those things that as just any individual in grief. And you also have mentioned that part of it is triaging. One of the things, we had a clip just recently that was on our Instagram account about how an individual having cancer realizes that they might be a patient forever, or they probably will be, the grief that's associated with it. But a lot of times it's you bringing that person to water, right?
Yep.
Their knowledge and understanding is how proactive they're going to be as a patient.
Yeah.
It's supporting themselves, not just in the medication side, but between the years.
Yeah, and I think about being a patient. There's this phrase called patient-centered care, where the doctor waits for the patient to ask questions, and like, only if you ask me, then I'll know how to triage your care. And sometimes that's good because it puts the patient in the driver's seat, but very often patients don't know the questions to ask. So then I have to get in there and kind of weed through. And I think I take it as like a privileged state that I get paid for being nosy.
Right.
So I can get in there and ask the questions, and I've never been met with, how dare you ask me that? It's more like, oh, thank God. Like, at least someone's asking the questions that maybe my doctors are too shy, worried about, self-conscious about asking. We don't
know their bedside manner. Like, oh, I don't know how to engage with this particular family based on this scenario, because this is a youthful individual and I don't know how to approach their parents and tell them what I should tell them. Yeah. So they don't know how to advocate for themselves.
Or hide the news from the younger patient and just tell the parents, because the parents can handle it, not the patient themselves.
So you're between the ears is also, it's almost like a coach. Yeah. In a lot of sense. But you're helping them manage, because I've seen, sometimes you could say, too much of it, right? You've seen a great deal of this grief and this impact. Yeah. So knowing that, you're like, oh my gosh, have you asked this question? Yeah. I mean, how many times does someone go, I didn't know that I could? Have you ever heard that? Or?
Through their eyes. I see it all the time in their eyes. Like,
windows to the soul. They're like, I could stand up and, say I want another test, or I want another doctor, or I could advocate for myself, and you could see it.
Yeah. Do you have 2 more hours to talk? Like, lock that door. Let's stay in here and take care of this. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
But that must, and back to the caregiver, the grief, and that unraveling of what that actually is for what your work is, and for the individuals that are in your space. Yeah. Because that time frame, right? There's so many individuals that need that support. Yeah. Cancer CAREpoint being an amazing place to receive that support. But it has to be, like you said, let's lock ourselves in for 2 hours and help you manage through so you can be a better patient or a better advocate for your child. But when you're having that, hey, it's been 50 minutes, that also has to, because you're like, well, I'm not ready to check out on you.
No, I have to be very intentional about how I use the hour. And if someone's becoming overwhelmed at 40 minutes, like the clock is very important to me. We have a very intimate relationship. And so I have to keep track of, like, are they going off into like Anxietyville? Can I bring them back? Does this mean they need a higher level of care? Which, normalizing that as well in the room, like, there's so much stigma about getting mental health assistance already that my job shouldn't be like, are you sure that, you need a psychiatrist now? How embarrassing.
I think that's a crazy thing that I'll quote my Aunt Dee, who said this to me my entire life. We're like, if a car needs a tune-up, so do humans. Right? Absolutely. Why wouldn't we go in and just be like, oh, here is this unbiased individual that will hopefully have an objective approach to what I'm ailing from, whatever school of thought, right? There's different approaches to therapy, but I just have never seen the negative impact personally, or had qualms with saying, oh no, my wife and I have received therapy. I think we're better for it. And I think stronger to let people know that maybe you should too.
Yeah, and you're not getting it when you know that your marriage is about to end too, which people find therapy, like, this is like, I don't know if they would do that for grief, but as
Yeah.
a basic tool, they would see therapy as like, well, we're about to cut, fish or cut bait, about to cut bait, so let's try this, and then it's too late.
Yeah, right. It needs to be a measured approach, very, very intentional
Yeah.
to say that we're going to do this in order to ensure longevity.
Yeah.
Because without it, you're two people just hoping, right, that you're not on diverging roads, but on train track, right?
Right.
We're parallel. We're going through this journey.
That hope, is so important to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going back into the professional side of this, just the uncertainty that I have to carry with me of sometimes not knowing when someone dies, and I may not ever get that closure with them. There may have been some really beautiful moments towards end of life that I got to be with them, but a lot of the rituals or personal celebrations of that relationship that I have for myself, like, need to be as important as my work that I do with people, to give that the same limelight that I would in working with somebody too. So the grief on my end is important to identify.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things, we're going to take a brief break. We'll be back with Juliann Halvorsen. We are going to have continued conversations, but something we touched about before the pod, which was being 40 in that midlife, and then also watching cancer patients, buck all trends and say, I'm going to do this, and how will and want can help change to have passion for something. So we'll be back in just a minute, but thank you so much for being with us on Guiding Grief. I'd like to take an opportunity and pause just to thank our sponsors, Darling Fisher and Los Gatos Memorial Park, celebrating lives one story at a time. As members of the community here in Campbell, San Jose, and Los Gatos, it has been an honor to care for so many of the loved ones of our community, and we are so grateful for your trust. That's why we're supporting this podcast, Guiding Grief, and bringing your community information about how to heal. So something we did talk about briefly or earlier today before we had a chance to sit down was the spirit of the individual that you get to meet with, and how inspiring that can be when they just decide that this is something I'm going to do. And do you believe it is that I've seen, I can potentially see the end, so I'm going to use that time and I'm going to climb this mountain or walk the Camino, whatever it might be, that they end up doing something that is remarkable, that under different circumstances they might not have?
Do you mean before somebody passes away?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think to really funnel it down, if there's a fork in the road for somebody, most often I'll see someone fight until the bitter end, or there'll be like this divine intervention that comes, and there's such a sense of being in the present moment like they've never seen before. And that inspiration of just the utter beauty of working with someone towards end of life and not being scared to ask the questions that a lot of other people would never ask somebody. Again, being paid to be nosy really pays off in the work that I do. And to do this work, I think for me, obviously, I've thought a lot about my own mortality and what I would like my end to look like as much as I can has really shaped the way that I work with people too, because to have that awareness for myself, like there's only so much I can talk about without really thinking about this stuff and internalizing it for myself. And so I think my openness shows with other people too, of like, wait, what did you just say? Hold on a second. That was really important. And wow, amazing. Like, what an insight to have a week before you die.
Right.
Does anybody else know that you were thinking that? Like, can you tell your spouse that you were thinking about this? Like, it's like having this conversation, like it's never too late. Like you can
say the thing.
You can say the thing, like thinking that you need to protect your loved ones. Like even until the bitter end sometimes doesn't pay off, right? Because then the loved ones are left with questions.
I wish I would have had that chat, or wish we would have gone into it and taken the things that have been swept under the rug. Yeah. Right. And I think that's the heart and soul stuff that someone's like, I'm going to approach this with that. How do you remain objective? Or it's got to be the hardest thing, because you're going in and there's a common thread. The common thread is that this family or this individual has been impacted by cancer. Yeah. and you have a wealth of knowledge and information, and then you see someone that's not willing to be helped, or no, I'm going through the motions because someone said that I should do this.
Yeah.
And then you're challenged with, how do I make this valuable to this person, because you know that it's valuable.
Yep.
There are so many different levels that you, from 50 minutes to 50 minutes, that would change in your day.
Yeah. And so many different 50 minutes.
Yes.
The word objective can get a little slippery if I feel like there's some social injustices that are happening, like the doctors aren't listening the way that I think they should. The patients are just making decisions out of fear. I'll get a little fist poundy in my work. Usually that shows up maybe on my face. Like I don't always have the neutral face that a lot of therapists have. But working from the standpoint of wanting the very best through ethics, morals, and values for my clients, and encouraging those to come to the forefront, which maybe this is the first time you've ever thought about those because you haven't given yourself the chance. You didn't know you had a voice. You've been stifled before. You've been shamed. Like, now's the time.
Well, and Cancer CAREpoint is an advocacy space as well, right?
Yeah.
So it is as that objective, subjective part, that is part of what you're doing, is being an advocate to people that might not have a resource, especially in the monetary space, right? It's available to everybody, but it is individuals that wouldn't know where to go and don't think that this wouldn't be for me. Cancer CAREpoint is for them.
It is.
Right? So it's blind to that socioeconomic part of, I get to have. We live in the Silicon Valley. We live in the middle of the rat race where lots have, but far more don't.
Yeah.
And Cancer CAREpoint's focal point is advocating for the individual that might not have that, which is awesome, right? That's why when the big event comes, so many people come to that event with open arms and checkbooks to donate, so that they're supporting their community indirectly through Cancer CAREpoint's reach, which is awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much for bringing that up. So the biggest fundraiser that we have for the year is on August 24th. It's our biggest money raiser that we have, and making money through donations, fundraising, and donors. Like that's pretty much it, right? So these big events that we have once a year, like that's our biggest push. So it's very important. And
so the golf tournament, and then this year the garden party is at Nestldown.
Yep.
Up on Highway 17.
Mountains,
so if you've heard this and you haven't got tickets, and there's still tickets available, I'm not sure. Hopefully there are. I know it's a sold out event every year, but if you've not been to Nestldown, so you get to go to one of the most beautiful places in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and that family is incredibly generous. Their name escapes me right now. My apologies for that, but the family is so supportive of Cancer CAREpoint and their reach in providing a great deal of that space to make sure that those that come to raise money get to do it in the most beautiful place. That's also very, very helpful.
So generous. Yeah. We're so lucky that we get to do the work that we do at no cost to the patient. So the loved ones too. It's a ripple effect. So not just the person that's going through cancer, but your spouse, your best friend, your cousin, like whoever might be impacted, whatever that means, by cancer. Then you are welcome through our doors. And
just thinking about the grief that's associated with insurance, right?
Like doing paperwork.
Just paperwork. Could I have this? I won't have this because it will cost this, or it would send me into the rears if I had this. I wouldn't be able to do this, or I couldn't support my family another way.
Right.
What an amazing and noble work that there's someone out there that's saying, hey, we're going to do the hard work, which is raise the funds so that we're here for you.
Yeah.
I just think there couldn't be a better organization for a disease that will affect everybody by 1 degree, regardless of your socioeconomic status in a community.
So true.
And it's not, I think it was one county when it started. It was Santa Clara, but I think it's... if I'm not mistaken, it's even further south now, and it's heading north of Santa Clara in the not too distant future if it already hasn't. So it's just amazing that it's like, well, how far can we reach and still have the same amount of impact, right? Because it's the last thing you want to do is stretch that out so the impact becomes less.
Yep. Yeah. We want to make sure that we stay in the...
Because it's a small but mighty team.
Yes. Our army that we have, that we talked about last time.
Yeah, just a division.
Yeah. And our work, of course, doing this work, like you can't be in it for the money, really. Like you have to have a passion towards helping people, and and making sure like it's such a gift to be on the phone with somebody and they're like, and is this going to go through insurance because I'm at my worst and they're expecting me to be at my best right now? I'm like, no insurance. Like we don't need any of that paperwork. And it's like short-circuiting. What?
Yeah.
No, wait, really?
Yeah. Especially when they have an opportunity to speak with someone who's as passionate and caring and knowledgeable as you are. And they're like, well, this should cost X. And you're like, yeah, somebody else footed that.
Right.
Yeah.
Not my problem.
Well, one of the things, another thing that I wanted to talk about, which is heavier, because we talked, or I mentioned at the top, about medically assisting loved ones. Mm-hmm. And I'm not an expert in this space, but I've definitely had an experience in my own personal life, and then recently with my family and my dad and the loss of his sister, and watching someone for days on end not eat or drink.
Yeah.
Not because that was prescribed, because the individual was continuing to fight for their life, because it's what human beings do. They fight to survive and to breathe. You can't turn that off, right? And just watching that, and there's that whole Dr. Kevorkian thing that I mentioned earlier. It had such a different stigma. And I think it was the late 80s, early 90s when he was kind of under fire for being this monster of like, but he wasn't. He was just way ahead of his time.
Right.
And the narrative was so much different at that point in time, whereas now that hospice has grown to what it is today, and that palliative care space, and then understanding, I don't know if you've ever supported anyone in grief or had that space or that conversation with anyone that is just one that I know that my family is reeling from in recent history.
Yeah. In the field we call it medical aid in dying, and so that is when a doctor is the assisting party when it comes to your end of life, and for you to be making that call instead of suffering organically, if you will, like is a really big self-empowerment move for a lot of people. Not everybody. If you want to take like religious stance into it, or if your personal ethics don't allow that would be another story. But for people that I've worked with that do want to do that, there's such this is my time to make this decision. This is one of the last decisions that is mine to make, and to make that a timely decision where my family they don't have to watch me suffer. And in that moment, you can be wavering in that. It doesn't mean like you're scheduled at 2 p.m. to check out and that's it. Like there's a continuing conversation that you have with your doctor and other mental health professionals too, to make sure that you are of sound mind and body to make that decision. So I'm hoping in the years to come. Not leaping
into it, right? This is something that it's very measured,
yes.
Right? Which I think a lot of times if someone wants to spin it, they're like, oh gosh, you're being pushed to this.
Right.
But I think this is definitely an opinion. I have no basis for this, but I think anyone that is truly experienced and witnessed someone that has been, clicking the button to alleviate pain while they're watching their loved one pass has a very different opinion about it than if they haven't.
Yes.
Right? Like, oh, I've experienced that. Please don't ever let that happen to me.
Yes.
Versus, the virtue signaling of that's not okay, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
And then you put them in that scenario days on end, watching someone that they've loved for their entire life just battle and battle and battle when there could be a different way.
Yeah, because in grief, all the patterns that have happened to us in the past, like all the death that we have seen and be a part of, travels with us into this moment now. Like say it's towards our time, we will take all of the other grief in our past and put it into this moment of like, well, it's going to look like my Uncle Harry, or it's going to look exactly like this, and I don't want that. And there becomes this like really anxious response to, I don't want my end to be like that. And it's like, let's see what your measured responses can be, so that again, you're not making decisions out of fear. That's my biggest takeaway when I work with people, and just to make sure that you are speaking for yourself and nobody else is pushing you to make this decision. Because again, like this is the big one. Yeah. This is the big one. Yeah. Let's make sure it's 100%.
And I imagine because you're dealing with someone who has dedicated their life to cancer treatment, right? They're telling this patient what they need. And they're saying, well, I don't want to do that. When you want to advocate for someone to be able to say, well, no, I don't want to have that journey, and I don't want to have radiation, and I don't want to have all of these other things take place. I'm going to be empowered to go out the way that I want. Yeah. And you're going to allow someone to say, you can say no.
Yes.
If you want to.
What does that look like to say no? Yep. to even exercise that viewpoint, because we can get very fixed towards end of life too in our outlook and our stance in life, and to be able to extend your world out a little bit more, to have a question mark in there is really, really valuable.
When did you decide that you were going to be a therapist, or when did being a therapist decide that that's what you were going to be?
When did that decision knock me over the face? My mother passed away when I was in my early 20s, and the way that she passed away, it was out of fear. And I had all of these questions after she passed of like, does life have to be like this? Does death have to be like this? I don't understand why we have to suffer this much. And so those questions stayed with me. I didn't get my master's degree for a while after my mom passed, but in asking those questions, I actually volunteered for hospice for a year, and in doing dishes, just sitting with people, light errands if they needed to. It was a huge healing process for me to be able to witness families that were prepared for death, and that everybody knew about it, and that it wasn't a shameful thing to talk about, which blew me away. I'm like, I want other people to know that this is how life and death can happen. And it took me a while to find this amazing placement at Cancer CAREpoint. Like, I've been working with other populations, but in finding this, like, I really feel like I've put my feet in a good pair of shoes. and knowing my own personal evolution of being a therapist, I think with my working knowledge and my really like lack of fear of talking about the big stuff, like it pays out in clients giving me their trust, which is an amazing relationship to have with somebody.
You create that. I always like that meet me halfway, right?
Yeah.
You create that. Like, I'll meet you here.
Yeah.
What was your mom's name?
Mary.
I
Yeah.
always feel like there's so many wrong things to say when someone tells you, and we could
another 2
rehash
hour
all of those things.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I would challenge anyone, that if someone shares about the loss of their loved one, to genuinely and authentically ask their name, because I think it's such a therapeutic thing to be able to say your loved one's name.
Yeah.
And it just, I say Nate lots unapologetically. It makes me feel better that his name is said, because otherwise who's going to say it? Or we're a generation away from maybe never being known again.
Yeah. Yeah. What a nice opposite knee-jerk reaction, rather than saying, I'm sorry for your loss.
Yes. Please don't say I'm sorry for your loss. We unfortunately are wrapping up Guiding Grief with Juliann Halvorsen, and we are so excited that she has come on to speak about the value of what Cancer CAREpoint does in our community and in many communities surrounding us. Please know that grief has no bounds. We've talked about it as it relates to the loss of a loved one, or as it relates to the therapy or having therapy that's not specific to cancer. Yeah. It's all therapies. It's in marriages. It's in raising children. It's in HMOs and PPOs and insurance and all the things that happen in life. Everything can be wrought with grief. And if there's one thing that maybe you've learned, is that there's individuals like you out there that are willing to boldly help an individual go where they need to go, which is having conversations and asking difficult questions. So if you're not aware of Cancer CAREpoint, hopefully we've brought this knowledge to you. Hopefully that you can go on their website and donate, be a part of the amazing cause and what they do. And most importantly, thank you so much for being a part of the Guiding Grief community. I hope you have a great and wonderful week. Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Guiding Grief podcast. I'm your host, Nicholas Welzenbach. Grief is a profound experience, but you're not alone. Let's continue to navigate this journey together. If you have any thoughts, questions, or topics you'd like us to explore, reach out. Until next time, be kind to yourself, find strength in your resilience, and always hold on to hope. Before we end, I'd like to give a quick thank you to KCAT TV for producing our show. Please remember, be good to one another.